We live in a world driven by constant stimulation, distraction, and the relentless pursuit of productivity. Yet despite all this activity, many of us find ourselves struggling to focus, facing creative blocks, and teetering on the edge of burnout. What if the solution isn't doing more, but intentionally choosing to do less? In The Power of Boredom, you'll discover that the state we often avoid, boredom, can become your most potent tool for enhancing productivity, creativity, and clarity. Modern life has turned boredom into something to fear, but within this overlooked state lies the potential for profound cognitive resets, original insights, and renewed focus. Drawing from cutting-edge neuroscience, psychology, and practical strategies, this book will guide you in strategically harnessing boredom. You'll learn simple yet transformative exercises designed to reset your mind, recalibrate your reward system, and restore your cognitive bandwidth. Rather than constantly seeking novelty, you'll master the skill of cultivating boredom to break habit loops, enter deep states of focus, and ignite breakthrough creativity. Whether you're chronically distracted, skeptical about doing nothing, or simply eager to reclaim your mental space, this book offers a clear roadmap. Embrace boredom not as a threat, but as a valuable ally, and unlock your full potential by learning to do less to accomplish more. Chapter 1. Know Your Enemy. Your brain is under siege, and you don't even know it. Right now, as you read this, your attention is being carved up and auctioned off to the highest bidder. Every app, every notification, every quick check is training your mind to crave the next hit of novelty. You think you're staying connected, but you're actually being disconnected from your purpose, your creativity, and your ability to think deeply about what truly matters. The enemy isn't technology itself. It's compulsive stimulation, the relentless need for constant input that has hijacked your reward system and turned your brain into a slot machine. And here's the brutal truth. Most people will spend their entire lives feeding this machine, never realizing they could have been the house instead. This book is your declaration of independence from that tyranny. You're about to discover why voluntary boredom isn't laziness, it's leverage. It's the secret weapon that separates those who react from those who create, those who consume from those who compound, those who drift from those who dominate. The immediate wins you'll bank. Let's start with what you can achieve in your first pass through this system. These aren't theoretical benefits, they're measurable changes you'll experience within days. You'll install one daily 45-minute phone-free block for 7 consecutive days. Choose a fixed time and place, remove your phone to another room, and define a single intention. Think, plan, or read, one only. End each session with a 3-line summary asking, what mattered, what's next, what to drop. This simple practice alone will begin rewiring your relationship with stimulation. You'll complete 2 boring on-purpose sessions that yield 1 clear decision or idea. Start with 1 question, sit in silence for 20 minutes, and capture your first answers. Rank them by impact versus effort, pick the top one, and test it within 48 hours. Log the result in a simple boredom log. This is where breakthrough thinking begins. You'll cut reactive checking by 50% during work hours. Batch your inbox and social media to 2 windows, midday and late afternoon. Add friction by logging out, hiding icons, and using grayscale during work blocks. Celebrate non-checking streaks with a small end-of-day win review. Watch your focus span double almost immediately. You'll feel noticeably calmer by evening. Replace last hour scrolling with paper, conversation, or a walk. Track your sleep latency and mood notes to see the instant benefits. Keep devices out of the bedroom and use a basic alarm clock. Your nervous system will thank you. You'll write and keep 3 weekly priorities. State each as an outcome, not a task. Schedule 1 deep block for each priority before anything else. Kill 1 non-priority to make space. Yes, delete it completely. This is how you reclaim your calendar from chaos. The compound interest of attention. But here's where it gets interesting. These immediate wins are just the down payment on something much bigger. Continue this practice, and you'll build compounding attention capital. Within months, you'll sustain 2 to 4 daily deep work hours. You'll experience fewer false starts and ship more outcomes. Your idle state will become calmer, fueling faster recovery between intense work sessions. This isn't about working more hours, it's about making every hour count exponentially more. You'll generate reliable weekly insights, one non-obvious idea per week that simplifies your work or life. Quarterly strategy pivots grounded in reflection, not panic. Clearer yes-no boundaries with less FOMO and more momentum. Your thinking will become a competitive advantage. You'll make better decisions with less effort. Shorter decision cycles measured in days, not weeks. Fewer impulsive purchases or commitments. A higher hit rate on the bets you do make. Decision fatigue will become a thing of the past because you'll have trained your brain to see what actually matters. The silent saboteur. But first, you need to understand exactly what you're fighting. Chronic overstimulation has hijacked your reward system in 3 devastating ways. Every ping is treated as urgent, so nothing feels meaningful. Your brain can't distinguish between a text message and a genuine emergency. The result? You live in a constant state of low-grade anxiety, always on but never truly present. Your dopamine baseline has been inflated to the point where ordinary life feels flat and unrewarding. You crave novelty because routine feels unbearable. Your brain has been trained to expect constant variety, making it nearly impossible to stick with anything long enough to achieve mastery. Work devolves into micro-dopamine maintenance. You're not building anything substantial, just feeding the stimulation machine. Focus fragmentation kills quality. Constant task switching reduces depth and increases errors. You mistake busy schedules for progress, finishing days exhausted yet underwhelmed. Your brain never gets the chance to enter the deeper states where real creativity and problem-solving happen. Perhaps most tragically, reflection time has vanished. Your default mode network, the brain system responsible for integrating experience into meaning, never gets to activate. Purpose feels blurry, priorities drift, and relationships suffer because true presence has become impossible. The cost of inaction. If you don't address this now, here's your future. Creativity atrophies as you produce more of the same. Stress rises while satisfaction falls, the classic burnout trajectory. Decision quality declines as you chase noise and miss signal. Relationships thin out because you're physically there but mentally elsewhere. Years pass with nothing compounding, just treadmill effort that leads nowhere. This isn't hyperbole. This is the documented reality for millions of knowledge workers who never learned to protect their attention. Don't become another casualty in the war for your mind. Your battle plan. The solution involves 5 strategic moves, executed in precise order. Think of this as your cognitive operating system upgrade. First, create white space blocks, 2 protected 45 to 90-minute sessions weekly with no devices, no inputs, no exceptions, end each with a written page of takeaways. This makes room for everything else. Second, deploy micro-boredom doses, 3 to 5 minutes device-free between tasks. Stand, breathe, observe urges, do nothing. Start the next task deliberately. This trains your tolerance for emptiness. Third, install habit loop interrupts. Use the "if I feel bored, then I wait 90 seconds" rule. Add friction through logouts and hidden icons. Reward non-checking with visible streak tracking. This breaks the compulsive chains. Fourth, execute a dopamine reset. Run 72-hour low-stimulation windows using essential tools only. Schedule 1 novelty per day, never impulsively. Replace 1 high-stimulation habit with a creative, low-stimulation task. This lowers your reward baseline. Fifth, master flow entry. When boredom hits, increase difficulty by roughly 5%. Narrow your target to the next 25 minutes. Run repeat passes, smoother, then faster, then cleaner. This turns emptiness into excellence. These steps are ordered for maximum impact. You create time first, then train tolerance, then break loops. You reset reward expectations before chasing flow. You lock in habits with visible wins because momentum beats complexity every time. Choose your identity. Here's the fundamental choice you face. Winners tolerate boredom, harvest insight, and act patiently. Losers flee boredom, chase noise, and confuse motion with progress. Your daily choice writes your identity. Pick the side that compounds. The winners understand that boredom isn't the absence of productivity, it's the presence of possibility. They know that the most valuable insights come not from consuming more information, but from creating space for existing information to recombine in novel ways. The path ahead requires courage, not the courage to climb mountains or start companies, but the quiet courage to sit with discomfort, to choose stillness over stimulation, to trust that emptiness can be more productive than activity. In the next chapter, we'll explore the brain reset, the neurological foundation that makes everything else possible. You'll discover how deliberate quiet reactivates dormant brain networks and why the most successful people in history understood something about attention that modern culture has forgotten. Your mind is waiting to be reclaimed. The question is, are you ready to stop being a victim of your own attention and start being its master? Before we continue, make sure to subscribe to Grow to the Top and activate notifications to receive more self-improvement tips that will supercharge your growth. And make sure to give this video a thumbs up and share it with your friends. It really helps the channel grow. Thank you for your support. Chapter 2, Brain Reset. Something strange happens when you turn off your phone for exactly 45 minutes. At first, nothing. Your brain keeps firing in the same frantic patterns, searching for the next ping, the next update, the next micro hit of stimulation. But somewhere around minute 12, something shifts. The mental noise begins to settle, and by minute 30, you start to remember what your own thoughts actually sound like. This isn't meditation. This isn't mindfulness. This is something far more practical and infinitely more powerful. You're about to discover how to perform surgery on your own attention, without a scalpel, without years of training, and without sitting cross-legged on a mountain. Your brain has 3 hidden networks that determine whether you live in chaos or clarity. Right now, they're probably broken, but here's the secret. They can be fixed in less time than it takes to watch a Netflix episode. The invisible operating system. Your brain runs on an operating system you've never seen, but use every second. Like any computer, when too many programs run simultaneously, everything slows down. Crashes become frequent. Simple tasks take forever. The difference is, you can't just restart your brain, or can you? Deep inside your neural architecture, 3 networks control your cognitive destiny. The default mode network integrates your experiences into meaning and identity. The salience network decides what deserves your attention. Your attentional set determines whether you can sustain focus or constantly switch between tasks. When these networks function properly, you think clearly, prioritize accurately, and work deeply. When they malfunction, which chronic stimulation guarantees, you live in a fog of false urgency, scattered attention, and shallow thinking. The reset isn't complicated, but it requires something most people have forgotten how to do: absolutely nothing. Why your brain keeps mistaking noise for signal. Every notification trains your salience network to treat trivial inputs as urgent. Your brain evolved to detect genuine threats, predators, storms, social conflicts that could mean life or death. But now it's being hijacked by email alerts and social media pings. The result? Everything feels important because your filtering system is broken. You can't distinguish between a text from your friend and a deadline that could make or break your career. Your stress response stays chronically activated, not because your life is genuinely dangerous, but because your brain thinks it is. When input drops, when you deliberately create quiet, something remarkable happens. Your salience network recalibrates. It stops flagging every stimulus as urgent and starts recognizing what actually matters. The constant background anxiety fades. Real priorities emerge from the noise. This is why the most successful leaders in history protected their thinking time like a fortress. They understood that clarity isn't a luxury, it's the foundation of every good decision. The hidden cost of constant switching. Your attentional set is like a radio dial. When it's tuned to rapid switching, you can handle multiple inputs but never go deep. When it's tuned to sustained focus, you can dive into complex problems and emerge with solutions that shallow thinking can't reach. Most people's dials are stuck on rapid switching. They've trained their brains to expect constant variety, making sustained attention feel impossible. They mistake this for having a short attention span, but it's actually a learned behavior that can be unlearned. The reset process gradually shifts your default setting from switching to sustaining. You're not forcing focus. You're removing the obstacles that prevent it from happening naturally. The memory integration mystery. Here's where it gets fascinating. Your default mode network is like a master librarian, constantly organizing your experiences into coherent stories. It connects today's challenges with yesterday's lessons. It spots patterns across seemingly unrelated events. It helps you understand who you are and where you're going. But this network only activates during low stimulation periods. When you're constantly consuming inputs, it never gets to do its job. Your experiences pile up like unorganized files, creating mental clutter instead of wisdom. This is why your best insights often come in the shower, during walks, or right before sleep. These are the rare moments when your default mode network can finally work its magic. The Daily 45 Protocol. The reset begins with one simple commitment: 45 minutes of deliberate quiet, same time every day. Not meditation, not relaxation, just space for your brain to remember how to think. Choose a time and location where interruption is impossible. Remove all devices beyond arm's reach. This isn't about willpower, it's about design. Make reaching for stimulation physically inconvenient. Bring one paper-based intention, a thinking map for a complex problem, a planning page for an upcoming project, or a book that requires genuine concentration. The key is singular focus. One input, one outcome, one session. End each session with a 3-line review. What mattered most during this time? What insights emerged? What's the next right action? This simple practice trains your salience network to recognize valuable thoughts and dismiss mental noise. The single task anchor. Within your quiet sessions, use what I call the single task anchor. Write one specific outcome at the top of your page. Draw a box next to it. Do not stop working until that box is checked. This sounds almost insultingly simple, but it's rewiring decades of scattered thinking. Your brain learns that completion is possible, that deep work feels good, that sustained attention creates better results than frantic switching. If you get blocked, don't switch tasks. Instead, define the very next physical action required to move forward. Often, the block isn't the problem itself, it's the lack of clarity about what to do next. The reflection advantage. The most overlooked part of the reset is reflection. After each session, ask 3 questions. What mattered? What didn't? What's the next right thing? Capture these insights in a dedicated section of your notebook. Keep it visible. Review weekly for patterns. You'll start noticing which types of thinking produce the best results, which environments support your deepest work, and which times of day your brain operates at peak capacity. This isn't journaling for the sake of self-discovery. It's data collection for performance optimization. The resistance you'll face. Your brain will fight this process. Around minute 8, restlessness will spike. Your mind will flood with urgent to-dos. You'll feel guilty about doing nothing while important work waits. This resistance is actually a good sign. It means the reset is working. Your stimulation-addicted neural pathways are being challenged, and they don't like it. Start with 15-minute sessions if 45 feels impossible. Add 5 minutes each week. Keep a later list nearby to capture intrusive thoughts without breaking focus. Reframe the guilt. You're not doing nothing. You're rebuilding the system that does everything. The compound effect. After 1 week of consistent resets, you'll notice fewer compulsive phone checks. After 2 weeks, your ability to sustain focus on difficult tasks will improve noticeably. After a month, you'll start experiencing what I call strategic clarity, the ability to see patterns and opportunities that were invisible before. The best practitioners achieve 3 to 4 hours of deep focus daily. They generate weekly strategic insights that visibly improve their results. They make decisions faster and with greater confidence. They're not working harder, they're working with a brain that actually functions the way it was designed to. The 3 outcomes. Your reset journey will follow one of 3 trajectories. Good means 5 45-minute quiet blocks per week with subjective improvements in calm and clarity. Excellent means 2 hours of sustained focus daily, plus 1 weekly priority shift that you actually act on. Best means 3 to 4 hours of deep focus daily, with weekly strategic insights that create measurable improvements in your work and life. Which trajectory you follow depends on one factor: consistency. The reset isn't a one-time fix, it's a daily practice that compounds over time. But even the daily reset has limits. There's a deeper level of cognitive recalibration that requires a different approach entirely, one that addresses not just your attention, but the very reward system that drives your behavior. In the next chapter, we'll explore how to perform what might be the most counterintuitive intervention of all, deliberately making your life less stimulating so it can become infinitely more rewarding. Chapter 3: Dopamine Reset. There's a reason why billionaires take month-long retreats to remote islands with no internet. It's not because they're burned out or need a vacation. It's because they understand something about human neurology that most people never learn. Your brain's reward system can be hacked, and when it is, ordinary progress stops feeling good. Right now, your dopamine baseline is probably inflated beyond recognition. Every small win feels meaningless. Every routine task feels unbearable. You need bigger and bigger hits of novelty just to feel normal. You've become a stimulation addict, and like any addiction, the solution isn't more of the same. It's strategic deprivation. But here's what the monks and the ascetics got wrong. You don't need to suffer to reset your reward system. You just need to be smarter about how you dose pleasure. The inflation problem. Think of dopamine like the currency in your brain's economy. When there's too much of it circulating, when every app, every notification, every micro-entertainment floods your system with artificial rewards, the value of each unit drops. What used to feel exciting now feels flat. What used to motivate you now barely registers. This is reward inflation, and it's killing your ability to find satisfaction in the work that actually matters. Reading a book feels boring compared to scrolling social media. Planning your week feels tedious compared to watching YouTube videos. Making progress on important projects feels unrewarding compared to the instant gratification of checking your phone. The solution isn't to eliminate pleasure entirely, it's to deflate the currency by temporarily reducing supply. When dopamine becomes scarce, your brain remembers how to appreciate smaller rewards. Suddenly, completing a task feels good again. Making progress becomes its own motivation. The ordinary becomes extraordinary. Why normal life feels flat. Your brain has a baseline level of dopamine that determines your default mood and motivation. When this baseline is artificially elevated by constant stimulation, normal life feels like a calm down. You're not depressed, you're overstimulated. Every time you check your phone and get a hit of novelty, you're training your brain to expect that level of stimulation as normal. The bar keeps rising. What thrilled you last month bores you today. What motivated you last week feels pointless now. This creates a vicious cycle. You need more stimulation to feel normal, which raises your baseline further, which makes everything else feel even flatter. Eventually, you can't enjoy anything unless it's hyperkinetic, hypernovel, or hyper-intense. The reset breaks this cycle by temporarily lowering your stimulation intake. When your baseline drops, ordinary activities start feeling rewarding again. Progress becomes pleasurable, consistency becomes possible. The 72-hour window. The reset begins with a precisely calibrated intervention, 72 hours of intentional low stimulation. Not a digital detox, not a monastery retreat, just a strategic reduction in the inputs that have been hijacking your reward system. During this window, you'll use essential tools only, email for work communication, but no feeds or endless scrolls. Your phone for calls and navigation, but no social media or entertainment apps. Your computer for necessary tasks, but no rabbit holes or time-wasting sites. Set auto-replies to manage expectations. Let people know you're in a focused work period and will respond within 24 hours for non-urgent matters. Whitelist emergency contacts so truly important communications can still reach you. Track your urges and the time you save. You'll be shocked at how often you reflexively reach for stimulation and how much time you reclaim when you don't. This data becomes powerful motivation to continue the reset. The goal isn't to punish yourself or prove your willpower. It's to give your reward system a chance to recalibrate. By the end of 72 hours, you'll notice that simple tasks feel more engaging, routine work feels less tedious, and your natural curiosity starts to return. The novelty budget strategy. After your initial reset, you'll implement what I call a novelty budget. Instead of consuming stimulation impulsively, you'll choose it deliberately. One intentional novelty per day, scheduled in advance. This might be watching a specific video you've been wanting to see, reading an interesting article someone recommended, or exploring a new app that could genuinely help your work. The key is intention. You're not scrolling mindlessly. You're making a conscious choice about how to spend your stimulation currency. Leave white space after each novelty. Don't stack entertainment back to back. Let your brain process and integrate the experience before moving on to the next input. This prevents the rapid-fire stimulation that keeps your baseline elevated. Before consuming any novelty, ask yourself, does this add energy to my life, or does it just mute discomfort? Energy-adding novelty inspires, educates, or genuinely entertains you. Discomfort-muting novelty just fills time and numbs boredom. Choose the former, eliminate the latter. The pleasure swap technique. The most powerful part of the reset isn't what you remove, it's what you replace it with. For every high stimulation habit you reduce, swap in one creative, low stimulation activity. Instead of scrolling social media during your morning coffee, sketch in a notebook. Instead of watching random YouTube videos after work, play an instrument or work on a puzzle. Instead of browsing news sites during breaks, write in a journal or organize your workspace. Keep the materials for these activities ready and visible. Don't make yourself hunt for a pen when the creative urge strikes. Don't bury your guitar in a closet where you'll never see it. Make the low stimulation option easier to choose than the high stimulation alternative. Log your mood before and after each swap session. You'll discover something remarkable. Creative activities often leave you feeling more energized than passive consumption, even though they require more effort. This is your brain remembering what genuine satisfaction feels like. The resistance myths. Your mind will generate compelling reasons why this reset won't work for you. Let's address the 3 most common myths before they sabotage your progress. First, you don't need to quit everything fun forever. The reset is temporary and strategic. You're not becoming a digital monk, you're becoming intentional about pleasure. After the reset, you'll return to entertainment and novelty, but you'll choose them rather than be chosen by them. Second, you don't need months of deprivation to see results. Short, repeatable windows are more effective than extreme measures you can't sustain. 72 hours is long enough to create meaningful change, but short enough to feel manageable. Third, discomfort doesn't equal virtue. If you're suffering through the reset, you're doing it wrong. The goal is to feel better, not worse. Adjust the intensity if needed. Some stimulation reduction is better than none. The practical mechanics. Start by identifying your 3 worst stimulation offenders. These are usually social media apps, news sites, or entertainment platforms that you check compulsively without conscious intention. Hide or uninstall these for the duration of your reset window. Remove apps from your home screen and enable grayscale mode during work hours. These small frictions create just enough pause to interrupt automatic behaviors. You're not relying on willpower, you're designing your environment to support better choices. Tell a friend about your reset. Accountability multiplies success rates dramatically. Having someone check in on your progress makes you more likely to follow through, and explaining your goals to another person clarifies them in your own mind. The 3 trajectories. Your reset will follow one of 3 paths, depending on your consistency and commitment. The good outcome means 60 minutes less passive screen time daily and renewed interest in routine tasks. You'll notice that planning, reading, and focused work feel more engaging than they have in months. The excellent outcome means a noticeable drop in stimulation cravings within a week. Reading becomes genuinely enjoyable again. Planning sessions feel productive rather than tedious. You start preferring creation over consumption in your free time. The best outcome means a sustained shift in your default preferences. Making things becomes more appealing than scrolling through things. Your deep work hours increase by 1 to 3 per day. You've fundamentally rewired your relationship with pleasure and progress. When things go wrong, 3 problems commonly derail the reset process. First, the rebound binge. After 72 hours of reduced stimulation, you might feel compelled to consume everything you've been avoiding. Plan your re-entry carefully. Pre-select which apps and sites you'll return to, and avoid the kid in a candy store mentality. Second, social friction. People might wonder why you're not responding to messages immediately or engaging with their social media posts. Publish clear office hours and keep your auto-reply active. Most people respect boundaries when they're clearly communicated. Third, mistaking temporary boredom for depression. The reset can initially feel uncomfortable as your brain adjusts to lower stimulation levels. Track your mood separately from your boredom levels. If you experience persistent low mood that doesn't improve after a few days, consider seeking professional support. The compound effect. The reset isn't a one-time intervention. It's a skill you can deploy whenever you notice your baseline creeping up again. Monthly mini resets, quarterly longer windows, or annual deeper recalibrations can keep your reward system functioning optimally. Each reset becomes easier and more effective. Your brain learns to trust the process. You develop confidence in your ability to choose pleasure rather than be enslaved by it. You become someone who uses stimulation as a tool rather than being used by it. But even a perfectly calibrated reward system has limits. There's another layer to this puzzle, one that determines not just how good progress feels, but how much progress you can actually make. In the next chapter, we'll explore the engine that converts your recalibrated attention into tangible output and why most people's cognitive horsepower is being wasted on the wrong fuel. Chapter 4, Focus Engine. Your brain has 16 gigabytes of working memory, but you're probably using about 2. The rest is being consumed by invisible background processes, the mental equivalent of having 50 browser tabs open while trying to run complex software. Every unfinished task, every open loop, every "I'll get to that later" thought is eating your cognitive RAM. This isn't about time management or productivity hacks. This is about recovering the raw computational power that's being silently drained by the way you've organized your mental workspace. When you free up that bandwidth, something extraordinary happens. Work that used to feel impossible becomes effortless. But here's the catch. Most people never realize their engine is running on fumes because they've never experienced what full cognitive capacity actually feels like. The invisible leak. Right now, your attention is bleeding from 1,000 tiny cuts. Each open browser tab represents a micro decision your brain has to make. Should I check this now? Each notification badge creates a small cognitive load. What might I be missing? Each unfinished task generates background anxiety. When will I get to this? These aren't major distractions. They're barely noticeable. But they accumulate like compound interest in reverse. By the end of a typical workday, you're operating at a fraction of your cognitive capacity, wondering why everything feels so much harder than it should. The solution isn't better time management. It's better attention management. You need to stop the leaks before you can fill the tank. Executive control is your brain's CEO, the system that decides what gets attention and what gets ignored. When it's strong, you can work deeply for hours without effort. When it's weak, you can't focus for 10 minutes without being pulled in 6 directions. Most people's executive control has been systematically weakened by years of context switching. Every time you jump between tasks, you're training your brain to expect interruption. Eventually, sustained attention becomes physically uncomfortable because your neural pathways have been optimized for fragmentation. The RAM recovery protocol. Your cognitive bandwidth is like computer memory, finite and precious. When too many programs run simultaneously, everything slows down. The difference is, you can't just download more RAM for your brain. You have to free up what you already have. The recovery begins with a simple rule: one input, one intention, one outcome. This isn't a productivity technique, it's a cognitive architecture principle. Your brain performs exponentially better when it can dedicate all its resources to a single objective rather than juggling multiple priorities. Context switching isn't just inefficient, it's neurologically expensive. Each switch requires your brain to save the current state, load the new context, and rebuild momentum. The transition costs compound quickly, leaving you exhausted from work that should have been energizing. When you eliminate switching, you eliminate the transition costs. Your brain can enter deeper states of processing where quality jumps dramatically while effort decreases. This is where breakthrough work happens, not in the frantic juggling of multiple priorities, but in the sustained application of full cognitive resources to worthy problems. The one outcome architecture. The engine runs on a deceptively simple protocol. Define a single outcome before starting any work block, then pursue nothing else until that outcome is achieved or time expires. Write the outcome in big letters at the top of your workspace. Make it specific and binary, something you can definitively complete or not complete. Finish the quarterly report is better than work on quarterly report. Send 3 follow-up emails is better than catch up on email. This isn't about perfectionism, it's about clarity. Your brain needs to know exactly what success looks like before it can efficiently pursue it. Vague intentions create vague results because your cognitive resources get scattered across multiple possible interpretations of done. If you get blocked, resist the urge to switch tasks. Instead, specify the smallest next physical action required to move forward. Often, what feels like a complex problem is actually just unclear about the next step. Define it, take it, and momentum returns. The context vault system. Your workspace is a reflection of your mental state. Cluttered screens create cluttered thinking. Multiple open applications create multiple competing priorities. Visual chaos generates cognitive chaos. Before starting any focused work block, create what I call a context vault. Close every browser tab unrelated to your current outcome. Park every competing task in a visible later list where you can see it's captured but not forgotten. Silence every notification except those related to genuine emergencies. This isn't about being antisocial or missing important communications. It's about protecting the conditions necessary for deep work. You'll reopen the vault at preset times, perhaps at 11:30 a.m. and 4:30 p.m., but never mid-block. The vault serves 2 purposes. It eliminates visual distractions, and it signals to your brain that this work session has clear boundaries. Your subconscious can relax knowing that other priorities are safely stored and will be addressed at the appropriate time. The checkpoint breath technique. Between work blocks, your brain needs a moment to reset. Without this transition, you carry the mental residue of the previous task into the next one, creating interference and reducing performance. Take 60 seconds between blocks. Close your eyes, take a long exhale, and ask yourself, what outcome matters now? This isn't meditation, it's a cognitive reset that clears your mental cache and prepares your brain for the next focused session. Begin each new block with what I call a micro-win. Identify something you can accomplish in the first 120 seconds that moves you toward your outcome. This might be opening the right document, writing the first sentence, or making the first calculation. The goal is to build immediate momentum rather than spending 10 minutes figuring out where to start. The depth advantage. Quality beats quantity in cognitive work, but most people optimize for the wrong metric. They measure success by hours worked rather than outcomes achieved. They confuse motion with progress, bustle with productivity. Depth creates leverage that shallow work can't match. 1 hour of focused, uninterrupted work often produces more value than 4 hours of fragmented effort. The math is counterintuitive but consistent. Fewer hours of higher quality beats more hours of lower quality every time. This is why the most successful knowledge workers protect their deep work time like a fortress. They understand that their competitive advantage doesn't come from working more hours. It comes from accessing cognitive states that their competitors never reach. The multitasking myth. Your brain doesn't actually multitask. It rapidly switches between tasks, creating the illusion of simultaneity. Each switch carries a cognitive cost that most people never notice because they've never experienced sustained single tasking. What feels like efficiency is actually serial processing with expensive transition costs. You're not saving time by juggling multiple priorities. You're fragmenting your attention and reducing the quality of everything you touch. True efficiency comes from eliminating the switches entirely. When you can sustain attention on a single outcome for 60 to 90 minutes without interruption, you access flow states where productivity multiplies while effort decreases. The design principles. Focus isn't willpower, it's design. You can't rely on motivation to overcome a poorly structured environment. You need systems that make sustained attention easier than distraction. Stand for the first 5 minutes of each work block. Posture cues intensity and signals to your brain that this session is different from casual browsing or passive consumption. Wear headphones even if you're working in silence. They create a visible, do not disturb signal that protects your boundaries. Use full screen mode for whatever application supports your current outcome. This eliminates peripheral vision distractions and creates a sense of immersion that supports deeper engagement. Your environment should reinforce your intention, not undermine it. The 3 performance levels. Your focus engine will operate at one of 3 levels depending on your consistency and commitment. Good performance means completing one meaningful outcome daily with fewer context switches. You'll notice that work feels less scattered and more intentional. Excellent performance means sustaining 2 60-90-minute deep blocks daily while experiencing a noticeable decline in urgent fires. You'll find that many problems resolve themselves when you're not constantly reacting to them. Best performance means maintaining 3 to 4 high-impact blocks daily with strategic projects advancing weekly in visible ways. You'll become someone who consistently ships important work while others struggle to keep up with their email. The common failure points. 3 patterns typically derail the focus engine. First, the inbox drift, the irresistible urge to check email mid-block. Combat this by pre-committing to specific inbox windows and holding the line no matter what your brain tells you about urgency. Second, scope creep, tasks that expand beyond their original boundaries and consume entire days. Time box your outcomes and deliberately rescope if you can't finish within the allocated time. Shipping something imperfect is better than perfecting something that never ships. Third, perfectionism paralysis, the inability to start because the outcome isn't perfectly defined or the approach isn't optimal. Define minimum shippable at the beginning of each block, then ship and iterate rather than polish and procrastinate. The compound effect. Each successful focus block builds your capacity for the next one. Your brain learns to trust that sustained attention is possible and rewarding. Executive control strengthens like a muscle, making future deep work sessions easier to initiate and maintain. Over time, you'll develop what researchers call cognitive fitness, the ability to deploy full mental resources on demand. This isn't just about productivity, it's about accessing the cognitive states where your best thinking happens. But even the most powerful focus engine needs the right fuel. In the next chapter, we'll explore how to transform the very boredom you've learned to tolerate into the raw material for breakthrough insights, a process that turns empty time into your most valuable creative asset. Chapter 5, Idea Alchemy. J.K. Rowling was stuck on a delayed train from Manchester to London when a fully formed boy wizard walked into her mind. She had no pen, no paper, and no way to capture what would become the most successful book series in history. For 4 hours, she sat in enforced stillness while Harry Potter's world assembled itself in her imagination. The delay that frustrated other passengers became the creative crucible that changed her life forever. This wasn't luck. This wasn't divine inspiration. This was the predictable result of a specific neurological process that you can trigger on command if you know how to create the right conditions. Your brain is constantly trying to solve problems in the background, but it can only do this work when you stop feeding it new inputs. The moment you understand this principle, boredom transforms from dead time into your most valuable creative asset. The hidden laboratory. Right now, your unconscious mind is running sophisticated pattern-matching algorithms that make the most advanced AI look primitive. It's connecting dots across decades of experience, finding relationships between seemingly unrelated concepts, and generating solutions to problems you didn't even know you had. But this process only happens during what neuroscientists call incubation windows, periods when your conscious mind stops directing attention and allows background processing to take over. Most people never experience these windows because they've trained themselves to fill every moment of potential boredom with stimulation. The result? They work harder, but never work smarter. They accumulate information, but never synthesize insights. They stay busy, but never break through to the next level of thinking that separates good performers from game changers. The alchemical process is simple. Focused effort loads the raw materials into your unconscious. Deliberate idleness allows recombination to occur, and breakthrough insights emerge when you least expect them. But like any chemical reaction, the conditions must be precisely controlled. Why grinding alone fails? There's a reason why the most important discoveries in history didn't happen at desks. Einstein conceived relativity while daydreaming about riding alongside a beam of light. Darwin's theory of evolution crystallized during long walks around his estate. Bill Gates' most pivotal strategic insights emerged during his famous Think Weeks, 7 days of isolation with nothing but books and blank paper. These weren't breaks from thinking, they were different kinds of thinking. When you grind on a problem with focused effort, you're using what psychologists call convergent thinking, narrowing down options to find the best solution within known parameters. This is essential for execution, but it's terrible for innovation. Breakthrough ideas require divergent thinking, the ability to see connections across distant domains and generate novel combinations. This only happens when your brain shifts into what researchers call the default mode network, a state that's impossible to reach while actively concentrating on specific tasks. The paradox is that you have to stop trying to solve the problem in order to actually solve it. Your conscious mind loads the question, then gets out of the way so your unconscious can work its magic. The 2-cycle protocol. The alchemy begins with a precisely choreographed dance between effort and ease. You can't just wander aimlessly and expect insights. You need to prime the pump with focused work before releasing attention. Cycle 1 starts with 25 minutes of hard focus on a specific problem or question. This isn't brainstorming or casual thinking. It's intensive effort that loads your unconscious with raw materials. Push until you feel mentally saturated, then stop abruptly. The transition is crucial. Release attention completely with a 10-minute idle break. No podcasts, no music, no scrolling. Just walk, stare out a window, or sit quietly. Your brain needs genuine emptiness to shift into background processing mode. When you return, capture the first 3 ideas that surface, no matter how strange or incomplete they seem. Don't judge, don't edit, don't elaborate. Just record. Your conscious mind will want to dismiss these early insights as obvious or impractical, but they're often the seeds of breakthrough solutions. Cycle 2 refines the most promising idea into something testable. This isn't about perfection. It's about creating the smallest possible version that can generate real-world feedback. A sketch, a prototype, a single-page outline, or a 30-second conversation with a potential user. The think-walk advantage. Walking unlocks a specific type of creative thinking that sitting can't access. Stanford researchers found that walking increases creative output by an average of 60%, but the effect only works if you follow specific protocols. Start each walk with one clear question written on a pocket card. Not multiple questions, not vague wonderings. One specific challenge that you want your unconscious to work on. The question becomes the seed around which insights can crystallize. Walk for 20 to 40 minutes without audio of any kind. Your brain needs auditory space to hear its own patterns. The rhythm of walking creates a gentle, repetitive stimulus that helps shift your nervous system into the relaxed alertness where insights emerge. Carry a pocket card and pen. Never rely on your phone for capture. The moment you pull out a device, you're back in reactive mode. Jot phrases, not essays. Single words that capture the essence of an idea. You can elaborate later, but the walking time is for generation, not articulation. End each walk by starring the single most promising line on your card. This forces you to evaluate and prioritize while the ideas are still fresh. Most insights fade within minutes if they're not marked for follow-up. The question seeding strategy. Not all questions are created equal when it comes to generating breakthrough insights. Vague prompts like, "How can I be more successful?" produce vague answers. Specific, constrained questions like, "How might we reduce customer onboarding time by 50% without adding staff?" create focused creative pressure. Frame your questions using "How might we?" or "What would break this?" These formats automatically shift your brain into possibility mode rather than problem mode. They assume solutions exist and challenge you to find them rather than dwelling on obstacles. Add constraints to sharpen the creative pressure. Budget limits, time boundaries, audience specifications, or resource restrictions force your brain to find elegant solutions rather than brute force approaches. Constraints don't limit creativity, they focus it. Keep a rotating list of your top 3 questions. Review them weekly and update based on your current priorities. This ensures your unconscious is always working on problems that matter rather than random intellectual curiosities. The micro-test imperative. Ideas without action are just entertainment. The alchemy only works if you test insights quickly and learn from real-world feedback. This is where most creative people fail. They generate brilliant concepts but never validate them in reality. Build the minimum version within 48 hours of having the insight. This might be a rough draft, a simple sketch, a basic prototype, or a single conversation with someone who represents your target audience. The goal isn't perfection, it's learning. Define success with one signal metric before you start building. Clicks, replies, clarity, engagement, or any other measurable response that indicates whether the idea has merit. This prevents you from falling in love with concepts that don't work in practice. Decide quickly whether to go, kill, or pivot based on the test results. Most ideas should die fast so you can move on to better ones. Some should be killed and resurrected later with modifications. A few should be pursued with full commitment. The key is making these decisions based on data, not attachment. The environmental catalyst. Your physical environment dramatically affects the quality of insights you generate. Familiar spaces produce familiar thoughts. Novel environments stimulate novel connections. This is why changing your location can instantly refresh your thinking. Use different rooms, routes, or chairs for different types of creative work. Your brain associates specific locations with specific thinking patterns. Breaking these associations forces your mind to form new neural pathways and consider fresh possibilities. Analog tools reduce what I call distraction gravity, the unconscious pull toward digital stimulation. Paper and pen create a closed system where your attention can't leak out through hyperlinks, notifications, or the infinite scroll. The constraint forces deeper engagement with your own thoughts. Ask inversion questions to break mental models. What would definitely fail, and why? This reverse engineering often reveals hidden assumptions and opens up solution paths that forward thinking misses. Sometimes, the best way to find what works is to first understand what doesn't. The 3 outcome levels. Your idea alchemy will produce results at one of three levels depending on your consistency and commitment. Good means generating one useful idea per week that you actually test, leading to minor simplifications or improvements in your work or life. Excellent means producing weekly breakthroughs that remove steps, reduce costs, or save time in meaningful ways. You'll start to see patterns in the types of insights you generate and develop confidence in your ability to solve problems creatively. Best means establishing a repeatable cadence of high-leverage insights that create visible jumps in revenue, quality, or speed. You'll become known as someone who consistently finds elegant solutions to complex problems. The common traps. 4 patterns typically derail the alchemy process. Idea hoarding without action, generating insights but never testing them. Combat this by calendaring 48-hour micro-tests as non-negotiable appointments with reality. No capture mechanism at hand when insights strike. The pocket card is non-negotiable. Ideas are fragile and fleeting. If you don't capture them immediately, they vanish forever. Overwhelm from too many ideas competing for attention. Score each insight by impact versus effort and keep only your top 3 active at any time. More ideas don't equal better results. Better execution does. Perfection paralysis that prevents testing. Define the ugly first version rule before starting any creative session. Your first attempt should be embarrassingly simple, but functional enough to generate feedback. The compound creative advantage. Each successful cycle of the alchemy process builds your capacity for the next one. Your brain learns to trust the incubation process and becomes more willing to release conscious control. Your unconscious gets better at pattern recognition and novel combination. Your confidence in creative problem-solving grows with each validated insight. Over time, you develop what researchers call creative confidence, the belief that you can generate solutions to any problem given enough time and the right conditions. This isn't arrogance, it's evidence-based trust in a reliable process. But even the most powerful creative insights are worthless if you can't break free from the compulsive behaviors that prevent you from acting on them. In the next chapter, we'll explore the hidden loops that keep most people trapped in reactive patterns and the surprisingly simple interventions that can set you free to pursue what actually matters. Chapter 6. Break Loops. You check your phone 96 times per day. That's once every 10 minutes during waking hours. Each check lasts an average of 23 seconds, but the real cost isn't the time. It's the cognitive residue that lingers for minutes afterward, fragmenting your attention and making sustained focus nearly impossible. You're not weak. You're not undisciplined. You're trapped in a carefully engineered behavioral loop, designed by teams of neuroscientists and behavioral economists whose job is to make resistance futile. Every app, every notification, every red badge is a tiny slot machine programmed to hijack your reward system. But here's what the tech companies don't want you to know. These loops can be broken with surgical precision. You don't need monk-like discipline or digital detox extremes. You need to understand the mechanics of compulsion and deploy specific interventions that make choice possible again. The secret isn't fighting the urge, it's learning to surf it. The invisible puppet strings. Right now, your behavior is being controlled by cues you don't even notice. The buzz of a notification triggers an automatic reach for your phone. A moment of boredom launches an unconscious scroll through social media. A difficult task creates anxiety that gets instantly medicated with a quick check of your inbox. These aren't conscious decisions. They're conditioned responses that bypass your rational mind entirely. The cue triggers a craving. The craving demands action, and the action delivers a small hit of dopamine that reinforces the entire cycle. Within weeks, the loop becomes so automatic that you're checking your phone before you even realize you've picked it up. The tech industry calls this engagement, but it's actually a form of behavioral addiction. Your attention has been weaponized against you, turned into a commodity that's bought and sold by companies whose business model depends on keeping you compulsively checking. Breaking free requires more than willpower. It requires rewiring the neural pathways that have been carved by millions of repetitions. But once you understand how these loops work, you can design interventions that make freedom inevitable. The compound cost of impulse. Every impulsive check seems harmless in isolation, but impulses compound like interest on debt. One quick email check becomes 5 minutes of inbox management. A brief social media scroll becomes 20 minutes of mindless consumption. A simple web search becomes an hour-long rabbit hole of tangential information. The real damage isn't the time lost, it's the momentum destroyed. Each interruption requires your brain to rebuild focus from scratch, a process that can take up to 23 minutes according to research from UC Irvine. By the time you've regained deep focus, another urge strikes and the cycle repeats. This creates what I call attention debt, a state where you're constantly paying interest on past distractions instead of building cognitive capital. Your days become a series of shallow activities punctuated by brief moments of attempted focus, never allowing you to access the deeper states where your best work happens. The solution isn't to eliminate all impulses, it's to create space between impulse and action where choice becomes possible again. The 90-second wave. Every urge follows a predictable pattern. It rises, peaks, and falls like a wave. The entire cycle lasts roughly 90 seconds if you don't feed it with action. This is your window of opportunity, the brief moment when you can choose response over reaction. The technique is deceptively simple. When you feel the urge to check your phone, name it out loud. I'm feeling a check urge. This simple act of labeling creates psychological distance between you and the impulse, shifting you from automatic reaction to conscious observation. Then wait. Don't fight the urge. Don't judge it. Don't try to make it go away. Just watch it like you're observing a wave from the shore. Notice how it builds, peaks, and naturally subsides. Most people never experience this natural decline because they act on the urge before it has a chance to pass. After 90 seconds, choose your next action consciously. You might decide to check your phone, but now it's a choice, not a compulsion. You might decide to continue with your current task. Either way, you've reclaimed agency over your attention. The friction architecture. Willpower is a finite resource that depletes throughout the day. By evening, your ability to resist impulses is at its weakest, which is why most people's worst digital habits happen after work. Instead of relying on self-control, you need to design your environment to make good choices easier and bad choices harder. Start by logging out of your most problematic apps and removing their icons from your home screen. This creates just enough friction to interrupt the automatic reach and tap sequence that bypasses conscious thought. You're not making access impossible, you're making it intentional. Add a second layer of friction by organizing problematic apps into folders that require an extra tap to access. Better yet, bury them in folders with boring names like utilities or tools so they don't catch your eye during casual browsing. For your most focused work blocks, keep your device in another room entirely. Physical distance is the most reliable friction because it forces you to make a deliberate decision to break focus. The 30-second walk to retrieve your phone is usually enough time for rational thought to override impulse. The if-then defense system. Your brain loves automation, which is why habits form so easily. But you can hijack this tendency by creating positive automatic responses that compete with negative ones. These are called if-then rules, and they're one of the most powerful tools for behavioral change. Create specific rules for common trigger situations. If I feel bored, then I take 3 breaths and write down the next action I need to take. If I reach for my phone during work, then I do 10 seconds of stillness first. If a thought pops up that's unrelated to my current task, then I park it on my later list. The key is specificity. Vague intentions like, I'll check my phone less, have no power against automatic behaviors. Specific if-then rules create new neural pathways that can compete with existing habits. Practice these rules during low-stakes moments when resistance is easier. Each successful implementation strengthens the new pathway and weakens the old one. Over time, the new response becomes as automatic as the old one, but now it serves your goals instead of undermining them. The streak psychology. Humans are naturally motivated by progress and streaks. This is why video games use achievement systems and why fitness apps track consecutive workout days. You can leverage this same psychology to break compulsive loops. Use a simple visual tracking system, a piece of paper with boxes you can check, a calendar with X's, or a basic app that counts consecutive days. Each time you complete a work block without compulsive checking, mark it. Each day you stick to your if-then rules, record it. The visual representation of progress becomes its own reward, creating positive momentum that makes the next good choice easier. Streaks also create loss aversion. Once you have a 7-day streak, you don't want to break it and start over. Keep the tracking simple and visible. Complex systems create friction that reduces compliance. A single checkmark per successful block is enough to trigger the psychological benefits of progress tracking. The temptation intelligence. Most people think their urges are random, but they follow predictable patterns based on time, location, emotional state, and energy levels. By tracking these patterns, you can anticipate and prepare for your most vulnerable moments. Keep a simple temptation journal for 1 week. Note the time, place, and emotional state whenever you feel a strong urge to check your phone or engage in other compulsive behaviors. Look for patterns. Do urges spike at certain times? Are you more vulnerable when tired, stressed, or bored? Do specific locations trigger automatic behaviors? This intelligence allows you to design targeted interventions. If you always check your phone at 3 p.m. when energy dips, schedule a 2-minute reset break at 2:55. If you compulsively browse when anxious, create an if-then rule that redirects anxiety into a brief walk or breathing exercise. Understanding your patterns transforms random struggles into predictable challenges that can be systematically addressed. The 3 levels of freedom. Your loop-breaking journey will progress through 3 distinct levels. Good means achieving 50% fewer random checks and experiencing fewer broken focus blocks. You'll notice that work feels less fragmented and more intentional. Excellent means checking devices only during scheduled windows and feeling calm during natural lulls instead of immediately reaching for stimulation. You'll develop confidence in your ability to sit with boredom and use it productively. Best means automatic non-checking during deep work sessions, with urges fading into background noise that doesn't disrupt your flow. You'll become someone who uses technology as a tool rather than being used by it. The failure patterns. 4 common patterns derail loop-breaking efforts. White-knuckling through urges without any positive replacement often leads to rebound binges where you overindulge to compensate for the restriction. Combat this by adding micro-rewards after successful non-checking, a small celebration, a favorite tea, or a moment of appreciation for your progress. All-or-nothing thinking turns single lapses into complete relapses. Use the 2 out of 3 rule. If you succeed in 2 out of 3 attempts, you win the day. This prevents perfectionism from sabotaging progress. Social pushback occurs when others expect immediate responses and interpret delays as rudeness or disengagement. Publish clear office hours and use autoresponders that set expectations about response times. Most people respect boundaries when they're clearly communicated. Hidden triggers like fatigue, stress, or hunger can overwhelm your loop-breaking systems when you're not paying attention. Add a 2-minute reset protocol whenever you notice these states. Drink water, stretch, or take 3 deep breaths before making any decisions about device usage. The compound liberation. Each successful loop interruption builds your capacity for the next one. Your brain learns that urges are temporary and that not acting on them is safe. Your confidence in your ability to choose grows with each small victory. Your identity shifts from someone who is controlled by impulses to someone who controls them. Over time, you'll develop what researchers call metacognitive awareness, the ability to observe your own mental processes without being hijacked by them. This isn't just about phone usage, it's about reclaiming agency over your entire behavioral repertoire. But breaking compulsive loops is only half the battle. Once you've created space between stimulus and response, you need to fill that space with something worthwhile. In the next chapter, we'll explore how to transform the very boredom you've learned to tolerate into a gateway for the most elusive and valuable cognitive state of all, one that turns ordinary work into extraordinary performance. Chapter 7, Flow Entry. Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi spent decades studying the world's most accomplished performers, Olympic athletes, master craftsmen, Nobel Prize winners, searching for the secret to peak performance. What he discovered changed everything we thought we knew about excellence. These elite performers weren't just working harder or longer than everyone else. They were accessing a specific cognitive state where effort felt effortless, time seemed to stop, and their skills operated at levels that surprised even themselves. He called this state flow, but here's what most people miss. Flow isn't a mystical experience reserved for geniuses and artists. It's a predictable neurological state that can be triggered on command if you know how to read the signals your brain is already sending you. The most reliable signal? Boredom. That restless, understimulated feeling that most people flee from is actually your brain's way of saying, I'm ready for more challenge, turn up the difficulty, and watch what I can do. The misunderstood signal. Right now, you probably treat boredom like a problem to be solved. The moment you feel understimulated, you reach for your phone, switch tasks, or find some other way to escape the discomfort. But you're misreading the signal entirely. Boredom isn't a sign that you're doing the wrong thing. It's a sign that you're doing the right thing at the wrong level. Your brain has adapted to the current challenge and is ready for the next increment of difficulty. Instead of fleeing, you should be leaning in. Think of boredom as your internal performance coach. When a workout becomes easy, you add weight. When a video game level becomes trivial, you advance to the next stage. When work becomes routine, you need to increase the challenge by roughly 4 to 5% to re-engage your full cognitive capacity. This is the secret that separates good performers from great ones. They use boredom as a calibration tool rather than an escape signal. They've learned to surf the edge between comfort and challenge, staying in the sweet spot where growth happens. The challenge skills sweet spot. Flow occurs in a very specific zone where your skill level perfectly matches the challenge level. Too much challenge creates anxiety. Too little challenge creates boredom. But when the match is precise, something magical happens. Your conscious mind gets out of the way, and your unconscious competence takes over. Most people never find this zone because they quit when boredom hits, instead of adjusting the difficulty. They assume that if something feels easy, they should move on to something else entirely. But mastery comes from staying with the same fundamental activity while continuously calibrating the challenge level. The world's best performers understand this intuitively. Professional musicians don't abandon pieces when they can play them competently. They increase the tempo, add complexity, or impose new constraints. Elite athletes don't stop practicing basic movements. They execute them faster, with more precision, or under greater pressure. The key is making micro adjustments rather than macro changes. When boredom signals that you're ready for more, you don't need to revolutionize your approach. You just need to turn the difficulty knob slightly clockwise. The 4% precision rule. The magic number for challenge escalation is approximately 4 to 5%. This increment is large enough to re-engage your attention, but small enough to avoid triggering anxiety. It's the Goldilocks zone of difficulty adjustment. Not too much, not too little, but just right. When boredom hits during a work session, add a small constraint or increase the stakes slightly. If you're writing, set a tighter deadline or aim for more precise word choice. If you're analyzing data, look for subtler patterns or add an additional variable. If you're practicing a skill, increase the speed or accuracy requirement by a small margin. The adjustment should feel slightly uncomfortable, but not overwhelming. You want to create what researchers call optimal challenge. enough difficulty to demand your full attention without triggering the stress response that shuts down creative thinking. Track what level of challenge reliably triggers engagement for different types of work. You'll discover that your optimal challenge level varies based on your energy, the time of day, and the specific skill being practiced. This data becomes invaluable for engineering flow states on demand. The scope narrowing strategy. Flow requires singular focus, but most people try to optimize for too many variables simultaneously. They want to write faster and better and more creatively all at once. They want to solve the problem and learn new skills and impress their colleagues in the same session. This scattered attention prevents flow from forming. Your brain needs a single, clear target to lock onto. Define success for the next 25 minutes only and remove every unrelated metric from consideration. If you're writing, focus only on word count or only on clarity, not both. Create what I call a single scoreboard for each flow session. One metric, one time frame, one definition of winning. This constraint forces your brain to channel all its resources toward a unified objective rather than fragmenting attention across multiple goals. Start each session with a 2-minute micro-win that builds immediate momentum. This might be writing the first paragraph, solving the first equation, or completing the first iteration of a design. The goal is to create forward motion that carries you into deeper engagement. The repetition ladder. Flow doesn't happen on the first attempt. It emerges through repetition. Most people abandon activities too quickly before the neurological conditions for flow have time to develop. They mistake initial difficulty for permanent incompatibility. The ladder has 3 rungs, each serving a specific purpose. Pass 1 is about getting it down, creating a rough version that captures the basic structure. Don't worry about quality or elegance. Just establish the foundation and prove that completion is possible. Pass 2 is about getting it right, refining accuracy and eliminating obvious errors. Now that you understand the overall shape of the task, you can focus on precision and correctness. The goal is functional competence. Pass 3 is about getting it smooth, achieving effortless execution where the mechanics become automatic. This is where flow typically emerges, as your conscious mind releases control to your unconscious competence. Most people never reach the 3rd pass because they get bored during the 2nd and move on to something else. But the 3rd pass is where the magic happens, where effort transforms into ease and work becomes play. The environmental triggers. Flow is as much about external conditions as internal states. Small changes to your physical environment can dramatically affect your ability to enter and maintain flow states. When the boredom signal arrives, stand or pace for 60 seconds before making any adjustments. This physical movement helps reset your nervous system and creates a clear transition between the old challenge level and the new one. It's a ritual that signals to your brain that something is about to change. Change your tool or medium without changing the fundamental task. Switch from pen to whiteboard, from keyboard to voice recording, from digital to analog. This variation provides just enough novelty to re-engage attention while maintaining focus on the core objective. Use a single song or ambient sound loop on repeat to signal flow entry. Your brain will begin to associate this audio cue with deep focus, making it easier to drop into flow states over time. The repetition eliminates the distraction of changing music while providing a consistent environmental anchor. The 3 performance levels. Your flow practice will develop along one of 3 trajectories. Good means experiencing 1 flow episode per week lasting 30 to 45 minutes, where you lose track of time and feel effortlessly engaged. You'll notice that work during these periods feels qualitatively different, easier, yet more productive. Excellent means accessing daily 60-90-minute flow windows where the quality of your output becomes visibly superior to your normal work. Others will start commenting on the improvement in your performance, even though the work feels easier to you. Best means achieving multiple deep flow cycles per day with elite level throughput on your most important work. You'll develop the ability to enter flow states reliably and maintain them for extended periods, giving you a significant competitive advantage in any field that requires sustained cognitive performance. The common derailment patterns. 4 problems typically disrupt flow development. Overchallenge creates anxiety that shuts down the relaxed alertness necessary for flow. If you feel stressed or overwhelmed, dial back the difficulty by 5 to 10% until you find the sweet spot again. Underchallenge leads to apathy and mind wandering. If boredom persists despite your adjustments, add more constraints, impose a deadline, create a scoring system, or arrange for peer review. Sometimes external pressure is needed to create internal engagement. Distractions pull you out of flow once it's established. Use full screen mode for whatever application supports your work and create a physical do not disturb signal that others can see. Protect the flow state as fiercely as you would protect any other valuable resource. Energy crashes can derail flow sessions before they reach their natural conclusion. Insert a 2-minute physical reset. Stretch, breathe deeply, or do light movement whenever you feel your energy flagging. Often this is enough to restore the physiological conditions necessary for sustained flow. The compound mastery effect. Each successful flow session builds your capacity for the next one. Your brain learns to recognize the conditions that support deep engagement and becomes more skilled at creating them. Your tolerance for the initial discomfort of increased challenge grows stronger. Over time, you'll develop what researchers call autotelic experience, the ability to find intrinsic motivation in activities that others find tedious or difficult. Work becomes its own reward because you've learned to access the neurological states where effort feels effortless. But flow is just the beginning. Once you can reliably enter these peak performance states, you need to systematically create the conditions that support them. In the next chapter, we'll explore how to architect your entire environment, both physical and temporal, to make flow states not just possible, but inevitable. Chapter 8, White Space. Bill Gates disappears twice a year. No meetings, no phone calls, no emails, just 7 days in a remote cabin with nothing but books, blank paper, and his thoughts. He calls them Think Weeks, and they've produced some of Microsoft's most pivotal strategic decisions, including the shift to internet-first computing that kept the company relevant in the digital age. Most people assume this level of isolation is a luxury only billionaires can afford. But Gates isn't retreating from work. He's doing the most important work of all. He's creating the conditions where breakthrough thinking becomes inevitable. You don't need a week in the woods to access this same cognitive advantage. You just need to understand something that most busy people never learn. Emptiness is not the absence of productivity. It's the presence of possibility. The secret is learning to schedule nothing as strategically as you schedule everything else. The capacity paradox. Your calendar is probably packed with back-to-back meetings, deadlines, and commitments. Every hour is accounted for, every minute optimized. You've eliminated all the wasted time and created what looks like peak efficiency. But here's the paradox. The fuller your schedule becomes, the less capacity you have for the work that actually matters. Without white space, those seemingly empty intervals between activities, you're operating at 100% utilization with zero margin for quality, creativity, or strategic thinking. Think of white space like the margins on a page. They don't contain words, but they make the words readable. They create breathing room that allows meaning to emerge. Without margins, text becomes an unreadable wall of information. Without white space, your life becomes an unlivable wall of activity. The most successful people understand this intuitively. They protect emptiness as fiercely as they protect their most important meetings because they know that white space is where their best thinking happens. It's not dead time. It's the most alive time of all. The architecture of emptiness. Creating white space isn't about finding time, it's about designing time. You need to architect emptiness with the same intentionality you bring to planning important projects. This means 3 distinct types of white space, each serving a different cognitive function. Weekly white blocks are your foundation, 2 sessions of 60 to 90 minutes at the same time every week. These aren't flexible appointments that can be moved when something urgent comes up. They're non-negotiable meetings with your future self, protected as fiercely as you'd protect a meeting with your most important client. During these blocks, no devices, no inputs, no errands, just pen and paper. The constraint forces your brain to work with what's already there rather than constantly seeking new information. You're not consuming, you're processing, integrating, and synthesizing. Close each session by listing 3 decisions or ideas that emerged, then choose one to act on within 48 hours. This transforms white space from passive relaxation into active strategic thinking. You're not just clearing your mind, you're using clarity to generate actionable insights. The microdose strategy. Between your weekly white blocks, you need smaller interventions that preserve cognitive freshness throughout the day. These are micro-boredom doses, brief, device-free pauses that prevent attention from fragmenting. Take 3 to 5 minutes between tasks to simply exist without input. Look outside, breathe deeply, or sit quietly. Don't check your phone, don't review your to-do list, don't plan the next activity. Just be present with whatever thoughts or sensations arise naturally. During these microdoses, ask yourself one question. What is the one next action that matters most? Then start with that action when you return to work. This simple practice prevents you from drifting into reactive mode where urgent tasks crowd out important ones. Cap these breaks at 5 minutes maximum. They're microdoses, not mini vacations. The goal is to reset your attention, not to escape from work entirely. Think of them as cognitive palate cleansers that help you taste the full flavor of whatever comes next. The monthly deep dive. Once a month, schedule a strategic boredom sprint, a 2-hour session dedicated to a single hard question that's been nagging at you. This isn't a brainstorming session or a planning meeting. It's pure thinking time with no agenda except to let your mind work on something important. Choose one question that could change your trajectory if answered well. How might we double revenue without doubling stress? What would I do if I had to rebuild this business from scratch? What am I avoiding that I need to face? Frame it clearly, then sit with it for 2 hours. No reading, no research, no typing, only thinking and capturing. Let your mind wander around the question like water finding its way around a stone. Don't force insights. Create the conditions where they can emerge naturally. End the session with a smallest viable test tied to whatever insight emerged. This might be a single conversation, a simple experiment, or a small prototype. The goal is to move from thinking to testing within days, not months. The environmental design. White space requires environmental cues that signal to your brain that this time is different. Use the same chair, route, or window for your white space sessions. Consistency creates a psychological anchor that helps you drop into the right mental state more quickly. Place your phone in a drawer with a sticky note that says, "Bored? Good." This serves 2 purposes. It removes the temptation to check your device, and it reframes boredom as a positive signal rather than a problem to solve. Block white space first, then fit meetings around it, never the reverse. Most people schedule their important work in whatever time remains after meetings and commitments. But white space is your most important work. Everything else should accommodate it, not override it. Treat white space like you would treat any other crucial business meeting. You wouldn't skip a meeting with your biggest client because you felt like doing errands instead. Don't skip white space because you feel like being productive in more obvious ways. The resistance myths. Your mind will generate compelling reasons why white space won't work for your situation. Let's address the 3 most common myths before they sabotage your progress. I don't have time for nothing is the most frequent objection, but you don't have time to waste time, which is exactly what happens when you operate without white space. You make poor decisions, miss important patterns, and spend hours on activities that 5 minutes of clear thinking could have eliminated. "I'm too extroverted for silence" assumes that white space is about personality rather than skill. Silence isn't a trait, it's a practice. Extroverts often benefit more from white space because their natural tendency toward external stimulation makes internal processing even more valuable. Big insights require long retreats is the perfectionist's excuse for never starting. Minutes matter more than hours. A 5-minute microdose can shift your entire day. A 90-minute white block can change your quarter. You don't need a week in the mountains. You need consistency in small doses. The 3 outcome levels. Your white space practice will develop along one of 3 trajectories. Good means maintaining 2 white space sessions per week with a noticeably calmer baseline and clearer decision-making. You'll find that problems that used to feel overwhelming become manageable when you have space to think about them properly. Excellent means implementing daily microdoses that preserve your energy and reduce reactive detours. You'll notice that your days feel more intentional and less fragmented. The constant sense of being behind or overwhelmed will diminish as you create regular reset points. Best means using monthly sprints to produce step-change ideas that visibly improve your results. Your organization will begin to adapt to your quiet norms, respecting your white space, and even implementing similar practices themselves. The implementation obstacles. 4 common problems derail white space implementation. Colleague pushback occurs when others interpret your protected time as unavailability or disengagement. Share your office hours clearly and demonstrate the improved quality of your contributions that result from white space. Most people respect boundaries when they see the benefits. Errands creep into white space because it looks like free time that can be filled with tasks. Treat white space like a meeting with your most important client. Never skip it. Never fill it with other activities. The moment you compromise on this boundary, white space disappears entirely. Overdosing on microbreaks can turn them into procrastination tools. Cap them at 5 minutes and use a gentle chime to signal when it's time to return to work. The goal is cognitive reset, not cognitive escape. Guilt about stillness is perhaps the biggest obstacle. You'll feel like you should be doing something during white space. Reframe this. White space is the meeting that buys back all your other meetings. It's the investment that makes everything else more efficient and effective. The compound clarity effect. Each white space session builds your capacity for the next one. Your brain learns to trust that emptiness is safe and productive. Your tolerance for boredom increases, allowing you to access deeper states of reflection and insight. Over time, you'll develop what researchers call cognitive spaciousness, the ability to think clearly under pressure because you've trained your mind to find calm in the midst of chaos. This isn't just about productivity, it's about maintaining your humanity in an increasingly frantic world. White space becomes a competitive advantage because most people never create it. While others react to whatever demands their attention, you'll have the clarity to choose what deserves your attention. While others make decisions based on the latest information, you'll make decisions based on integrated wisdom. But white space is just the foundation. Once you've mastered the art of creating emptiness, you need to master the art of filling it with purpose. In the final chapter, we'll explore how to transform everything you've learned into a sustainable identity, one that makes boredom not just tolerable, but profitable. Chapter 9, Quiet Mastery. You are no longer the same person who started reading this book. That person fled from boredom, chased every notification, and mistook motion for progress. That person believed busyness was virtue and stillness was laziness. That person lived at the mercy of whatever demanded attention loudest. But something fundamental has shifted. You've discovered that boredom isn't the enemy, it's the secret weapon. You've learned that emptiness isn't the absence of productivity, it's the presence of possibility. You've experienced what happens when you stop running from quiet and start running toward it. You are now the kind of person who can sit with discomfort, mine silence for gold, and act with calm intensity while others spiral in reactive chaos. This isn't just a skill you've learned. It's an identity you've claimed. Welcome to Quiet Mastery, the playbook you now own. Let's consolidate what you've built. You've learned to protect white space like a fortress, scheduling emptiness as a non-negotiable meeting with your future self. You understand that these aren't breaks from work. They're the most important work you do. You've mastered the art of using boredom to reset your dopamine, salience, and attention systems daily. When that restless feeling hits, you no longer reach for stimulation. You recognize it as your brain's signal that it's ready for recalibration, and you give it the quiet it needs to restore optimal function. You've broken the compulsive loops that once controlled your behavior. Through friction design and if-then rules, you've created space between impulse and action where choice becomes possible. You prefer chosen action to reflexive reaction because you've experienced the power of conscious response. You've learned to incubate ideas through think walks and 2-cycle work sessions, then test insights within 48 hours before they fade into forgotten possibilities. You understand that breakthrough thinking requires alternating between focused effort and deliberate release. You've discovered how to enter flow states by nudging difficulty upward when boredom signals readiness, narrowing scope to create singular focus, and using repetition passes to achieve effortless execution. You know that mastery isn't about working harder, it's about accessing the cognitive states where effort feels effortless. The power you've unlocked. This transformation gives you capabilities that most people never develop. You choose your inputs, pace, and priorities instead of living on algorithmic autopilot. Your attention is no longer for sale to the highest bidder. It's a strategic resource you deploy with intention. You can run deep work on demand because you've rebuilt your cognitive operating system. Your calendar reflects your intent rather than panic-driven reactions to whatever seems urgent. You've learned the difference between important and immediate, and you consistently choose important. You've traded anxious reactivity for calm, compounding execution. While others exhaust themselves fighting fires, you prevent fires by thinking clearly about what actually matters. Your work compounds because it's grounded in reflection rather than reaction. The relationship revolution. But the benefits extend far beyond your professional life. Your relationships have transformed because presence has replaced partial attention. You can tolerate conversational lulls without immediately reaching for your phone. You listen fully instead of waiting for your turn to speak. Phones off the table has become normal in your world. Conversations lengthen and deepen because you're not constantly monitoring for digital interruptions. People feel heard when they're with you because you've learned to be genuinely present. Trust grows in all your relationships because you've become consistent, less distracted, and more available. When you commit to something, people know you'll follow through because your attention isn't scattered across a dozen competing priorities. The achievements within reach. Your new capabilities unlock specific, measurable achievements. You can sustain 2 to 4 hours of deep, undisturbed work whenever needed. This isn't about grinding longer. It's about accessing cognitive states where quality multiplies while effort decreases. You generate weekly original insights that cut steps, reduce costs, or save time in meaningful ways. These aren't random moments of inspiration. They're the predictable result of creating conditions where breakthrough thinking can emerge. You make cleaner decisions with fewer regrets because you've learned to think before you act. Your hit rate on important choices improves dramatically, leading to visible gains in quality and speed across everything you touch. The effortless compound effect. Here's the beautiful paradox. The more you practice these principles, the less effort they require. Each repetition raises your boredom threshold, making urges lose their power over your behavior. What once felt uncomfortable becomes natural. Executive control becomes automatic as your brain learns to trust the process. Fewer decisions drain your energy because you've established systems that carry you forward without constant willpower expenditure. You operate from a place of calm strength rather than frantic effort. The systems you've built become self-reinforcing. Less stimulation leads to better focus, which leads to better results, which leads to more confidence in the approach. You enter a virtuous cycle where each success makes the next success easier to achieve. Your next move. All of this starts with one simple action. Block one 45-minute white space session today. Not tomorrow, not next week, not when your schedule clears up. Today. Right now. Open your calendar and protect 45 minutes as fiercely as you would protect a meeting with your most important client. Put your phone in another room and set a visible timer. This physical separation is crucial. You're not relying on willpower to resist temptation. You're designing an environment where temptation doesn't exist. Write one question you want answered at the top of a blank page. Something that's been nagging at you. Something that could change your trajectory if solved well. Then sit, wait, and capture the first 3 ideas that emerge. Don't judge them, don't elaborate on them, just record them. This single session will prove to you that boredom is not the enemy. It will demonstrate that your best thinking happens not when you're consuming information, but when you're processing what you already know. It will show you that emptiness is not the absence of productivity. It's the presence of possibility. The courage to choose stillness. Great work requires quiet courage. The willingness to choose stillness over noise when everything in your environment is pulling you toward distraction. This isn't the dramatic courage of heroes and adventurers. This is the subtle courage of sitting with discomfort, of trusting that not acting is sometimes the most powerful action of all. You have the opportunity to become an outlier in a world that has forgotten how to think. While others replace frantic with more frantic, you can replace frantic with focused. While others remain reactive, you can become deliberate. While others chase every shiny object, you can pursue what actually matters. This choice, to embrace boredom instead of fleeing from it, will separate you from 99% of the population. Most people will spend their entire lives running from quiet, never discovering the treasures that silence contains. But you know better now. The door that's already open. Your best ideas are already knocking. They've been knocking for months, maybe years. But you haven't been able to hear them over the noise of constant stimulation, endless notifications, and compulsive checking. The door to breakthrough thinking, to creative solutions, to strategic insights isn't locked. It's just hidden behind the static of an overstimulated mind. When you create quiet, you don't have to search for good ideas. They find you. Every moment you spend in deliberate boredom is an investment in your future self. Every urge you resist is a vote for the person you're becoming. Every white space session is a meeting with possibility itself. The world needs people who can think clearly, act deliberately, and create meaningfully. The world needs people who understand that the most valuable resource isn't time or money, it's attention. The world needs people who have learned to mine boredom for gold. You are now one of those people. Start now. Your best ideas are already knocking. Open the door.